Okay, in this segment we're going to talk about metal boxes. Now, metal boxes, just like plastic boxes, come in some basic shapes. You have round or octagon, which are basically for luminaires or lights. You still have 4-inch square boxes, and then you have your device boxes. Now, as I was explaining earlier, when you have your metal boxes from a house built before the 1980s, you could have NM cable, or you could have armored cable, or what's known as BX now. When you have NM cable, there's a connector inside the box that holds the cable in. NM cable, it's a connector like this that is more flat, so it doesn't pinch the wire. But now when you have your armored cable, remember if you looked in the cables videos that I did, the outer sheathing is the ground. There's no separate bare or green wire inside. There's just the outer sheathing and a little tracer tape. So when you put the armored cable in here, it has this assembly that goes around it, and it makes a firm connection with the box. So it transfers the ground from the cable to the box itself. Okay, now, like I said, that would ground the metal box at that point, because metal boxes have to be grounded. But with the armored cable now, you don't have a way to go from the box to the device, which has to be grounded. So, metal boxes, like I discussed before, you have these green ground screws, which even if you had to drill your own hole and tap it for a 1032, as long as it's got 2 threads in contact with that metal, that's an effective ground. If you don't want to do that, okay, if you don't have holes in the box and you don't want to drill and tap it, they make these little ground clips. That's one of the other approved methods. And what you can do is you slide that over the box like such. You get your screwdriver. That goes on there like so, and now you have your tail to ground your devices. Also, with 4-inch square boxes, you may see something that looks like this. It's an extension box that would screw over. For some reason, they needed to make a box bigger because of the box fill. Now, this 4-inch box, if this was in the wall, and then when they did your plaster or your sheetrock, you don't have a way to mount your switches, so what they do is they put these, they're called plaster rings, okay? And you can buy these in either 1 gang or 2 gangs, and also the thickness would be different according to whether you have 1/2-inch sheetrock or whether you have something thicker. They also make them for octagon boxes. Remember how I showed you the very shallow box and the plastic ones? Well, guess what? They make them in metal. I don't particularly like these. You can see the difference in size with the box. They're not as deep. They don't give you enough volume for the amount of conductors and also for the device itself. Okay, with the metal boxes in the basement, of course, you would also have a blank plate. Now, sometimes you'll see exposed boxes in the basement, and instead of putting a plaster ring on there and then mounting your device, you may see what's called a raised cover box. You can get these in different configurations for different receptacles. You can get them for a duplex receptacle, you can get them for a quad receptacle, you can get them in a switch receptacle, you can get a plain switch, you can get them for 30 amp, 40 amp, 50 amp receptacles. They make all kinds of different sizes. Just keep in mind, the bigger the receptacle, the deeper the box has to be. And nowadays they have these ones that are universal, where it comes with 2 of your GFI plates, and they give you these little inserts where you can either do receptacles or switches, and they give you a packet of screws and washers. Now, just beware with receptacles in these, you can't rely on just a single screw in the center. You have to use the 2 outer ones, and then you have to use the nuts that come with these. all right? Because otherwise that single screw has a tendency to fall out. One other thing I want to show you is you might open it up, and back in the day, when I showed you the old work plastic box and it had the two wings that popped out, well, back in the day when I was learning, we didn't have them. We had this, and you had to cut the box in, and you had to have some finesse, to tell you the truth. You couldn't just cut a hole, stick a box in, and turn out the two wings. You had to account for the screw holes, you had to account for the mounting screws back here, okay? It took a little bit of finesse. And then you had to use these old work brackets where you would kind of bend that out, you would slide it in, slide it down, and as you can see now, then you bend these two wings over, and then you have to pinch them with a pair of pliers like such to get them nice and tight. If you open up a box and you've got a metal old work box, my advice is don't touch the mounting supports if you don't have to, because it's very difficult to get them back in, especially if you have plaster and lath, because it's considerably thicker than just plain old sheetrock. So anyway, that is my introduction to metal boxes. You know, not much different than plastic, but the basic difference is now you have to ground them. Very important, okay?